Ooh, I'm just looking at the Awakenings. I'm just going to be so honest. Explosive Entrance, team player, that could be, yeah, that's quite a fun one going into, because there's a lot of damage, there's a lot of chaos coming through as well. And obviously, you have Fire Madden on the Kai, you have J-Man on the Zentaro, and Pinsondo on the Now. Pretty strong picks for themselves here, and picks that they're going to hopefully use to find themselves a win in this first game. On the other hand, you have A on the Drakkar. Not really a midfield pick in my opinion anymore, but obviously A does make it work. Fool with Device as well. We've seen it in week 1 of playoffs before, how well he can do on that. So, and name Chaotic. I mean, we've seen what he's done on Julie today already, so I feel like just really got good picks all around here.
Yeah, lots of damage being put on by Polar Coretex as A and Name Chaotic approach the barrier looking for an opening, but the regen has come in. The stall is out. Pinsondo respawning, but the barrier taken right as that does occur. The healing coming in as well as J-Man goes for a predict, but the Fool not going to be fooled by that one, as Pinsondo just aggressive on the defense, trying to make sure that flies permanently on the offense here, and a flip is burned by Fool to try and save it, and will just get past the hit stun as well.
Gets around the hit stun and gets a KO there now, actually, for the side of Polar Coretex as they get themselves a power play. Name Chaotic does not connect the dash punch successfully there, but again, you do have 2 flips for the side of Polar Coretex on A and Name Chaotic here. They're not using them just yet, they're trying to greed it out, and a very strong aggressive play by A there, going through the portal, not allowing Pinsondo to play around with that portal and get the core out, and just with the team player together there, just sends the core flying.
Yeah, that team player already proving its worth, and look at the energy advantage created by the damage pressure of Polar Coretex, right? They have 2 flips available, so much chip damage, not even chip damage, there's blasting them in the corner right now, and Fire Madden on Death's Door already staggered Pinsondo as well, who already went down in the first point itself. The J-Man not safe either, and if Polar Coretex coordinate their damage a tiny bit more, I think this could be a steamroll.
Very much could be, especially if they can find themselves a set win and more Awakenings, because already on the baseline they're doing so much, which you can again see J-Man almost taken out completely, and more noticeably here as well, J-Man doesn't have anything like of Embraces to help him stay alive. He's just going to have to take it and hope that the Zentaro, who is just so prone to dying, is not going to be taken out, as the barrier does go down now on both sides, and an open goal, but power play coming through for the Flying Blobbos. The Fool, though, with a beautiful aggressive play there, will get the core away, but the power play is still very much alive for the side of Flying Blobbos here.
Yeah, he gets it away for now, and the Chain Lightning will also take the core outside as it's rotated by J-Man, who is low but has the flip. The barrier's open, and the team player starting to get a little crazy. Knocked around the world, the team player active. Fool getting the strike. A good timing on the Supernova, and force the flip now against J-Man, who is going to be taken out. No, still stays alive, and what an angle, but not quite enough to get in the goal itself. It bounces off the very bottom of it, and the Fool just has to be so careful on the defense here. Name Chaotic dash punches through the Now primary. The 2 hits perfectly delayed, and that's going to be 2-0 for Polar Coretex.
2-0, and again, still a flip available for Name Chaotic, so you do have the opportunity to go for barriers, and you can also just play for KO, because Pinsondo and J-Man both don't have an evade, so if they're even close to the edge, Name Chaotic can just dash punch flip them, and they're probably just going to be taken out, but as of right now, the Flying Blob is still very much aggressive here, and exactly that happened there. A KO for Name Chaotic. Polar Coretex just trying to close this out as fast as they can. The point still very much in their favor, as J-Man almost gets taken out as well.
Yeah, Pinsondo with a great strike defense, but not quite enough to save the barrier all the way. And with this open net at their back, Polar Coretex are the ones who are pressing on the offense. No, it's Fire Madden with the barrage, with the Giga Blast keeping it up for J-Man. So much pressure out of nowhere, but the dash punch puts an end to it. And now another power play for Polar Coretex. It's unstoppable. It's never ending. And the top corner of the goal is wide open for A.
A gets the angle through and gets the snowball going now for Polar Coretex. They're gonna get a first pick in this draft, the Drakkar being the first choice here. So we'll see what's gonna come in. The prize fighter here, Hotshot, Primetime, all incredibly valuable, and the Primetime is gonna be the pickup for A to help with controlling that core, getting that core into enemy half, and also more importantly, denying it off of the Kai. Obviously, Kai, a absolute enjoyer of the Primetime. Extra special being denied, but Hotshot finding its way onto the Fool here. A great pickup for Vice for sure.
Yeah, that hotshot's going to add to the core speed, and also additional cooldowns for keeping the damage up. With size on the Juliet and Zentaro getting size on the other end, I think the brawler matchup continues to favor the Polar Coretex for now here. Flying Blobbos, they're going to need a lot of avoidance of the damage to keep it going, but right now it's looking so difficult as they're dead.
I mean, what can you do there? Because you just use your evade to avoid something else. So, yeah, the device ultimate will just hit and the power play is alive. They haven't dropped the barrier yet, actually, but feels like a question of time. No, Fire Madden is back on the field. J-Man's still very low, though, but so is Name Chaotic, as the Brawlers are kind of fighting to see who can take each other out first.
Yep, J-Man down to the bottom here. Pensando looking not able to, and that's a KO in the favor of Fly. Polar Coretex now on the back foot, and with all the control that Fire Madden has potentially, that could be huge. A good strike to assist Dioni's blade, and the Fool now in a lot of danger, moves away from the EI rush at the very least, and now J-Man the target perhaps, but healed right back up, and Polar Coretex, they got to be careful about being damaged themselves.
Yeah, very much so, but as of right now, the damage is going to find its way onto Pensando. Half the HP bar just gone with that Vice Ultimate. Not much you can do about it. And again, J-Man, no evades available either, but the core speed is going to go in the favor of the Flying Blobbos here. As the dash punch actually does get the barrier. Now open goals on both sides. We'll see who's going to get it through. And the power cord from the Fool will actually find it. That hot shot, just so valuable here.
The very end of the projectile's range, just enough to catch the Strike War win from Fire Madden, I believe, who sent it down towards it. And now with Name Chaotic building up a lot of meter, Polar Coretex in such a great spot here, especially with how good the Fool is at thunderstrucking exactly that corner of the enemy goal. 2 barriers down already. Name Chaotic low, but picking up an orb and staying alive. And it's just an overwhelming lead in this point, as even more damage is pumped into J-Man, who is so low, almost out of the play, still trying to get in, but Name Chaotic, a perfect pass, but the hit stun from Pensando, even better. And J-Man's already staggered again.
Yeah, it's just so difficult for J-Man to stay alive. It's a Zentaro on a KO-heavy game like this, and when Zentaro's not the player that's taking, doing all of that damage and taking out the enemy, usually they're the ones getting KO'd. And again, a beautiful sequence from the Fool up front there will just confirm another goal for the side of Polar Coretex. They're really in their element right now.
Yeah, Thunderstruck so well played by the Fool, making Vice look like his best character here, and also building up so much core flip bar as well, potentially, to close out this point. J-Man and Fire Madden, we know them for their synergy, right? But we're not really seeing them being given opportunities to make those passing plays, especially, weirdly so, on the Skates pick.
Yeah, difficult to make passing plays if your HP bars are low continuously, right? And as of right now, it seemed like it looked a bit better as Fire Madden does get a 1 barrier, but again, J-Man just being put down to stagger almost already makes it so impossible for them really to set themselves up. Fire Madden still keeping up the pressure, but in the end, the core's going to find itself in the defensive side from the Flying Blobbos again.
Lots of meter on both midfielders here as J-Man gets portaled through and KO'd. Hit the obtuse angle instead of the acute one, as Fire Madden in position. The barrage is good enough at that close of a range, and that will be a point stolen away by the Flying Blobbos to keep themselves alive with a chance to tie it up in the set.
Chances are still very much here, but they still need to find 2 goals. And if we're looking at the energy bars on the side of Polar Coretex, they're building up to 3 flips here, which can just be so deadly in terms of just finding KOs and finding barriers. But J-Man has something to say about it. Gets 1 barrier off of them, but not finding the second one yet. As Pensondo's making a push up, almost gets taken up by Name Chaotic, but for now they're safe.
For the moment, but look at the Supernova, all 3 hit and 1 KO'd, as the second one's a matter of time, and the third would have arrived as well had the goal not gone in. It's 3-1 in this set. It's a massive lead in this game for Polar Coretex.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to curse it that badly. But yeah, we'll see. The Vice first pick here, again, gonna be quite deadly because you do have Twin Drive, which I feel like is gonna be the pickup here because we see how the Fool is using it, how effectively he's using it to get upfield all the time, and having that even more and doing more damage with it is gonna be so difficult to deal with, as then the missile propulsion finds its way onto A as well. Just gonna aid this Drakkar so much with finding KOs, and even though you do get the Monumentalist on now, you're still trading it for a 1-2 punch on Julie, so the damage is not going to slow down at all for the side of Polar Coretex, which is going to make it a bit more difficult because Flying Blobbos, they found movement speed for themselves, which is great, but movement speed does not equate to survivability.
Yeah. We'll see though, and oh, wait a second, that's a KO that I did not expect there. A being taken out instantly. Maybe J-Man and Fire Madden can find something here, but so far the defense is holding from Polar Coretex. Pensando on the other side, but the portal ruins the plans, but the Strike War will make sure the barriers are opened up at the very least. But now with the respawns coming in, they got to be pretty careful here. Fire Madden looking for the Strike War wins over and over, but the Giga Blast is absorbed, and the Fool gets back just in time here. The flick not enough, and Polar Coretex hold.
They hold, and they also get an attack. They get 2 barriers almost immediately. Name Chaotic probably still has a dash punch available here as well. See if they can set themselves up as the Fool gets up front. Gets a strike whirl and gets a power chord and a beautiful attack from the Fool again. Just so excellent on the Vice this game.
Yep, just really well played. The Fool putting the team on his back when they need him the most, when they need to stay alive in the playoffs here. The Flying Blobbos, they look dominant in the loser side, but right now it's looking like Polar Coretex have all the control.
They have all the control. We'll see if they can keep him as well, because the Flying Blobbos are making a push for it. But again, the second barrier did not drop, as now Polar Coretex back on the attack. The power chord sends it away from J-Man, and again, it takes a core away, and it does a lot of damage as well. With J-Man being on level 5 as well, gets flipped off as well. A beautiful KO for Polar Coretex as they're trying to get this point and this power play going for themselves.
Yeah, passing plays. Fireman gets the barrier alone, though, despite the deficit. Named Chaotic in position, but the Oni's Blade will prevent it. 1 barrier down at the moment. And Pensando, a rare misstrike. That's the barrier gone. That's the Fool rushing forwards. And Named Chaotic in position, but a good pass to J-Man will start the offense for Fly. The Barrage to reinforce it, but the Supernova to send it away once again. And now Fireman in one more try. And what a drift by J-Man to secure it for the Flying Blobbos.
An excellent dash there from J-Man will put it through the defense from the Fool. This defense that has been so unbreakable so far is getting broken more consistently, and that's exactly what the Flying Blobbos are going to be looking to play for here.
Yeah, and if they can find those opportunities, it would be great, but the Giga Blast only opens up a chance for Polar Coretex this time. Good strikes by Fireman to not let the barrier go down just yet, as J-Man in the corner almost gets a barrier, but not quite. Great defense by Polar once again. Into the corner they go, the top side this time, and the Giga Blast will earn 1. But now the Supernova comes out, forces everyone back, and they have to settle with just 1 barrier as A approaches for the next one. It's huge for Polar Coretex if they can get it out once again, and J-Man barely misses the barrier.
Yeah, the barrier's still very much alive. The Fool has a flip, but a beautiful Giga from Fireman will actually get it through, as now J-Man and Fireman are running up. That flip from the Fool surely has to be used here, and will be used, but it lands in the KO, actually. Power play for the side of Polar Coretex.
Fireman still has a lot of room to work with here, though. The Fool forced to step up and does so, but this Kai is making sure the power play is nullified. Core speed, though, to name Chaotic. The dash punch in, not quite enough. The Fool right between Pensando and J-Man, and they're 1 point away now.
1 point away, and again, the Fool just being so active. This twin drive really just shining with all of that activity that the Vice has up front here. And if they can get themselves another quick KO, how they have been finding so far, I'm sure they can find themselves a 3rd goal and close out this game. But for now, the Flying Blobbos are actually the ones leading the attack and get 1 barrier out of the defense from Polar Coretex.
Yep, 1 barrier down. Named Chaotic keeping it controlled. 2 barriers gone. Polar Coretex just 1 goal away, but J-Man takes the barrier on the other end. Looks for an opportunity, but now Named Chaotic the one looking to capitalize here to shotgun forward, to strike to the top side. It's going to be a Polar win in this first game.
Yeah, that damage just came through. Their execution was just a lot better, I feel like, in the end. Just making sure that they get that Vice up front and just do so much damage. I stopped counting after like the 3rd or 4th time, where the Fool just jumped up front, used the ultimate, and just completely took out the entire defense from the Flying Blobbos. And that just was so efficient for them. And I'm sure that's going to be represented in the stats here as well, as the Fool, in a game of only 14 minutes, almost breaks 30k damage.
Yep. That was quite ridiculous here. The Fool, I think, the most impressive performance in this game. So many monumental Thunderstrucks on the other side. And, of course, scoring 3 entire goals as the goalie. Just really impressive from Polar Coretex.
Yeah, most definitely getting the entire team involved. It is so difficult, especially on a map like Gates, that is so punishing if your goalie is a little bit out of position. But they have found their way into a game victory here. And for the Flying Blobbos, you're trying to look away from this game. You're saying, you know, it kind of did go a bit south here, but we have 2 more games to win and 2 more games to stay alive in these playoffs.
Yep. Well, we'll see, though. The next map is going to come up in just a second. This is the loser's final. Last chance for both these teams to try and make the grand finals here, where Cyber awaits. And as we head on over to Demon Deus, I guess, what do you expect?
I didn't know it was Demon Deus. I did Deus, my bad. I didn't know it was that one. I feel like we're gonna see a little bit of damage again. I'm kind of hoping for a peak performance start, just so like maybe there's a more control approach possible. But more than likely, it's just gonna be more of the same. And looking at how the Fool has been playing this map out more specifically, I'd be very surprised if the Flying Blobbos are gonna give him that character again, or like either pick it away or ban it away from him.
Yep, we'll have to see. It's scary, right? Polar Coretex dominated the damage game in this one, and if we're heading on to Demon, I'm scared for the Flying Blobbos. They've never really been a KO team.
Yeah, I mean, and then what do you do on Demon Dice, really, right? If you're not optimizing yourself for the KO gameplay, there is a chance you can maybe get luck out with like a Monumentalist start and start looking in the now and just play pure oppression with the core, just making sure the enemy doesn't get the interactions they want. But that's gonna be difficult, right? Obviously, because you're already RNG reliant, and it's gonna be difficult as well. What you're really going to be targeting if you have a heavy impact start, if you have a Deadeye start, because there's so many threats coming through from Polar Coretex here that they can just be playing on a map like Demon Dice, especially again, Demon Dice, like I feel like it's the most kill map there is. So very much in favor for Polar Coretex going into the game. I would think so. But I mean, we'll see. There's also some funny angles, right? Obviously, Pinzando has a Juno available as well, which I feel like could be the mix-up that could make it a bit more difficult for Polar Cortex to play because it is so oppressive on a map like the Dice, but it's difficult to execute. So we'll see where the priorities are going to lie for them, and I feel like they should probably just. I feel like the draft is going to be like such a make or break for the Flying Blobbos here.
Yeah, just waiting for the draft to be generated. It's going to be Flying Blobbos on the blue side, but speaking of red side and blue side on Demon Deus, that does mean that there could be two very, very scary picks coming in, damage picks coming in for Polar Coretex there. And they're no strangers to the Aimi, the Luna, the Vice, of course, and of course so many other brawling picks. So it's not looking too optimistic, but Flying Blobbos have been resilient all throughout the loser side, so they could definitely do it here.
Yeah, I mean, they needed to get into this position in the first place, right? They've made it their way into the top 3, so they definitely have the tools to find a game win here as well. So it's in no way, shape, or just in no way is it doomed for them going into this game. It's just going to be so important that they find themselves in a decent situation. And I feel like with an extra special bulk up, it favors KO still very much, but there are picks here that you can be going for that will make your life a little bit easier, that just kind of optimize your survivability and your aggression at the same time. But looking at what has been picked already, the Finny and the Juno ban, very logical here, and obviously the device is not finding its way into the Fool's hands for a second time this series.
Yep. And taking a look at the picks here, the Vice, of course, as mentioned, but this time Polar Coretex taking away the now and taking the X. This is definitely going to be a really volatile game, right? The Zentaro making a reappearance. That is both one of the greatest damage appliers and also a big vulnerability for damage. And I'm just looking forward to see what the last Polar pick is, because I think that's going to really determine a lot about their comp.
Yeah, most definitely, because as of right now, it's just a Now and the X that can play a control-heavy game, but still scale well into damage later on. And the bulk up, obviously, an excellent pickup for the X on its own. X, we know, has so much damage potential and so much KO potential, but with a Now behind him, it's gonna be very controlled, and the environment is gonna be very controlled. A lot of movement speed and a lot of mines coming into play on a map like Demon Dance as well. Incredibly efficient. As the era is gonna be picked up here for the side of the Flying Blobbos, feel like slightly a mismatch with Zentaro Vice, because with Zentaro Vice you're just looking to just damage dump as much as possible, whereas Era's trying to go more on the control heavy side here. It is a really strong pick into the X and the Rasmus as well now, because those are both two brawlers that enjoy themselves some size. But I'm going to be curious to see how well it's going to perform on the Demon Dice map.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think I like the Polar Coretex draft a little bit more here, especially because the Rasmus goalie feels very, very good on Demon. And of course, like you mentioned, the era feels a little weird, a little strange. And yeah, that's gonna really be the big question mark heading into this one. This era goalie midfield. I can't really tell.
I would say it's goalie because it's like the only role where I feel like she would be a solid pick in. But then again, I won't. I don't really know if Vice is going to be better in the midfield position either. I feel like it could be going either way, and it's going to go down to essentially just what are they more comfortable with. And it does look like that Vice is going to be the one in goal, and Fireman is going to be in the era in the midfield. So I feel like Fireman is just going to continuously try to play on the side of X and just make sure this X gets disabled as much as possible with these beams. So Name Chaotic has as bad of a time as possible on a map like Demon Dice.
Yep, we'll see as the game loads in here. Like you mentioned, it is going to be the era in the midfield for Fire Madden and Pensando on the Vice in the goal box. Definitely an interesting one, but my eyes are on the Fool, on the Rasmus goalie. So much agency on Demon Days especially, and Name Chaotic can just do whatever it feels like. There's one barrier going down on both sides to kick it off as things are starting pretty slow.
Yeah, a lot of these picks do want to be scaling, right? And even though you have a bulk up and an extra special, which are quite valuable awakenings for most of the people in this lobby, you do want to be going through the first few drafts before you can really unleash the proper strength. So it's going to be a lot more controlled at the beginning here as the second barrier from the side of Polar Coretex still holds on, but A is going to be taking a lot of damage. The barrier does drop in the end now, and the attack from the Flying Blobbos is going to come in as Pensando is going to use the ultimate, and the Fool has no choice but to try to keep the core at the bottom, but J-Man with that primary will just put it in.
Yeah, that's a big first goal here for the side of the Flying Blobbos. They would like to get these goals earlier on, especially, right? To try and get some more speed on Fireman, to try and get some dash range on J-Man, as lots of damage out by Pensando, and we're starting to see them being chipped out a little bit.
Yeah, the damage is coming through. Name Chaotic does have the Van Brace to keep himself alive, so that's going to come into play pretty heavily as the barrier does go down once on the side of the Flying Blobbos. But the attack is not slowed down in any way. Fireman has a flip available as well if he does want to use it, as the evade from Pensando will actually avoid the damage from Name Chaotic there. And the Vice coming through Pensando with a beautiful KO. A down the stagger as well, and surely to be taken out soon. The barrier is not going to be lasting long here, as Polar Coretex, the Flying Blobbos actually are looking to go up 2-0 here. Yeah,
they're looking to get a lot of value out of this point. Lots of meter being built up. They would like to score without having to use a flip, but the Fool still holding. And J-Man may be a KO target pretty soon. Dangerous spot to be in, and that insta-flip will secure the second goal in this game.
Yeah, and they kept the flip on Fireman as well, which is very valuable. Pensando's very close to having a flip as well. So if you play out this kickoff correctly, you could maybe even just completely overwhelm the defense from the Fool here. But A does take one barrier off the side from the Flying Blobbos first.
Yeah, let's see. Fireman being chased right now by Name Chaotic, but as the X Maximus runs out, the pressure is relieved. Good strike war by the Fool, and Fireman now in a spot to try and help defend, but both barriers will fall. J-Man on the other end, the passive secondary so constant for this Zentaro in both games as the barrier falls. Dangerous spot to be in for Polar Coretex now, as Fireman has a flip and goes for the KO with it instead of going for the goal, and now it's a big power play.
Yeah, you don't really see Era going for KOs often, but when you do, it does have quite the efficiency as well. We'll see if they're going to be able to get the power play going and get the goal with it. No, the A is back on the field now, 3v3, and we're back to a more neutral state here with J-Man having a flip soon. Doesn't even need it, though. A beautiful dash from J-Man will be enough.
Yeah, just really well played there to close that one out. And an early win for Zentaro, first pick in the draft. This is a big swing in terms of both survivability and damage, right?
Yeah, peak performance together with bulk up, and you have a vicious Van Brace on yourself as well. You're just going to do more damage, you're going to have more HP, you're going to have more movement speed. That is an absolute great pickup for J-Man. You do get size on the Fool, which is going to help a lot defensively there. But I feel like that is absolutely great for the side of the Flying Blobbos. The Adrenaline Rush also falling onto A, which you don't necessarily want. Right now isn't going to be the one that's going to be finding the KOs. And even though that Adrenaline Rush got denied, you get Deadeye on Pensando, so this Vice is going to hurt even more now.
Yeah, it's not going to be very easy to play against this damage at the moment, it feels like. But if Name Chaotic can find something to get the ball rolling, find a few levels that could definitely help out the X. But just getting shrunk over and over, you mentioned earlier, right? Picking the era to go into the X and use that shrink to nullify the brawler a lot. It's proving to be working quite a bit.
Yeah, because it's so difficult for Chaotic to do anything when you're just losing so much movement speed, so much size, so much effectiveness on a pick like X. And that's exactly the formula that Fire Madden and the Flying Blobbos are going for. And again, Lee said it, it's working, right? There's a lot of damage being found on J-Man now, so it does need to be a bit careful here to not be taken out. Chaotic has a flip available as well, so if he sets himself up properly, he can get the KO on J-Man, but J-Man with the Vicious Venom Brace, just almost down to full HP again. The flip doesn't hit the core, but the Flying Blobbos are just completely back into the point and even winning it right now.
Well, that's a barrier take here. Polar Coretex in a decent spot, but Fire Madden has the flip. You got to watch out when Fire Madden's just all over the map here. Right to J-Man, but right to the Fool. The defense is good from Polar Coretex. His name Chaotic just kind of out of the play in a lot of these situations, right? As the X, as a relatively immobile brawler, it's difficult as Fire Madden sends it right in.
Yeah, a great goal for the side of Polar Coretex and Flying Blobbos, and gives them the momentum going into this point as well. You do have a flip on both of the goalies soon, but in terms of the forwards, A does have a slight advantage over Fire Madden. We'll see if that comes into play, but it's probably not a big enough of an advantage to make up for the fact that they're down 1 point.
Yep, and Chaotic just constantly being shrunk, constantly being forced out of the game, it feels like. Has the X Maximus this time, but no barriers taken. The chip damage so minor as well. Even investing a flip to try and get damage to stick onto Pensando. And maybe this could be a KO on the goalie here if they keep focusing. The Fool helping out as well, but dropping a barrier on the other side. The flip burned. It's not looking too easy to KO Pensando.
Yeah, it's very difficult because you don't have great confirms. You do have a flip though from A there, actually gets the KO and now should get the goal as well. Chaotic with a patient strike war there. So excellent, but yeah, it is difficult for the side of Polar Coretex to get confirms because what is your confirm? It's like, it's a Erasmus hook or just X punching him.
Yeah, it's looking like Fire Madden on this unconventional era pick is just controlling the game so much, right? That player just prefers the speed characters, and we're kind of seeing why.
Getting involved everywhere, and even though right now the side of Polar Coretex has taken 2 barriers there really cleanly, Fire Madden's still all over the place and just disabling everyone as much as he can. Pensando gets put down to low HP as J-Man gets a second barrier there as well. Open goal on both sides. Fire Madden has a flip available soon, so does J-Man. So looking really good for the Flying Blobbos to try to take this point.
Dangerous spot here for A, who's going to be supernovaed away. And Pensando now retreating slowly. Chaotic looking for the bull rush, but not enough speed to make a scary offense in this deficit. A dangerous spot now that J-Man has flip. Good save by the Fool, though, and the flip is burned. Dangerous spot now for the Flying Blobbos as Chaotic goes for the strike war win. J-Man rotating the core to the bottom side. The hook good for the moment, but the possession kept by the Flying Blobbos. If Fire Madden was even an inch further, that would have been huge, but it's A with the core speed gonna score that one. Wow, from the other side of the map.
Yeah, that is the strength of the Erasmus, right? It has so much core speed, and in overtime, together with all the power that the Fool already has, it's just going to be sending it flying, and it's going to punish Pensando for that slight misposition there. But the set is not over in any means, because the Flying Blobbos immediately on the attack again, take 1 barrier. Polar Coretex answering with one of their own there, though, as now both teams only have 1 barrier left on their side.
2 barriers down here. Polar Coretex looking for an advantage. A flip available bottom side. And Chaotic guesses right as they take the second set here. And with that, now the X has bought a lot more time. The Now could get a big awakening here in terms of creations. It's a huge opportunity for Polar Coretex.
Oh, and a big awakening, a huge awakening the Now is going to get here, as the Monumentalist is going to be in the draft. We'll see if A is going to opt for it as well. Of course he will. It's going to be so great for just interrupting anything that the enemy team is going to want to be doing. So a absolute great pickup as Size gets denied off of the Fool, but Prime Time obviously still a very good pickup for the Erasmus to just get the core out. Castellast on Fire Madden is going to be a bit difficult to deal with for Chaotic because, again, we've talked about it already. Chaotic just gets disabled so much this game, and with Castellast it's going to be even more difficult to be avoiding these arrow beams.
Let's see, as A already with the meter burned here. The Fool in the corner once again is J-Man. The gameplay's not changed for the Zentaro, who's just getting in the mix, going for the strike or wins, and finding barriers here. But with A having that Monumentalist, with name Chaotic, getting a little bit more speed if he can stay alive, that's going to be huge for the core control game plan in the corners for Polar Coretex.
Yeah, unfortunately enough for name Chaotic as well, they do have the stacks together with the recovery drone, so even if they get taken out once, they're not going to lose these stacks immediately, which is going to give them a lot more room of error as well, as the barrier does drop on the side of Polar Coretex now. But again, they can't set themselves up quite conveniently to get the actual goal in, as Fireman almost gets taken out.
Yeah, it's a little bit awkward here as Name Chaotic is sent away. J-Man with the flip available, looking to the top side here, but flipped away by the Fool, but primaried back by J-Man. They said no to each other, but J-Man had the last laugh with that final button.
Will get it through and will get the first point of this set 3. We'll see if they can continue on this momentum, because I feel like as well the side of Polar Coretex, they scale really well with an X and an Ow here, especially if you can get themselves these awakenings. So you do not want to be giving as many points, you want to give as little points as possible as the Vice Ultimate does come through, and does not drop a single barrier there. And the damage coming through. Name Chaotic uses the X Maximus to get one of these barriers down, and J-Man, Fireman, and looking pretty low here actually. The damage from the side of Polar Coretex is higher than I would have expected him to.
Yeah. Well, they go for the barrier immediately there, but defended away by 2 members of Polar Coretex, and the damage is really coming out. J-Man and Fireman are critically low, but getting a barrier nonetheless. Still core controlling despite it all, and Pensando with the core speed off the Supernova, not going to be quite enough here as J-Man's taking critically low once more. The barrier taken, the flip available for the brawler of Flying Blobbos, who will send it up to the top side, and despite them just being on death's door for the entire point, they just kept playing offense.
Yeah, that's kind of the downside, right? Because a lot of the damage from Polar Coretex was being found on J-Man and Fireman, but that means those were abilities invested that did not go towards core control, and then just the consistent core control from the side of the Flying Blobbos was going to be enough to take these 2 goals so far, and they're looking to make it a third as they get 1 barrier down already. Polar Coretex answering almost immediately with one of their own though.
Yep. Dangerous spot now for the Fool here, building up a lot of meter, but again, these barriers just constantly under threat. Pensando with the flip available on the defense on the other end, and the Oni's Blade gonna interrupt the flip from the Rasmus. And the Polar offense has just stalled completely compared to the last point.
Yeah, it's just so difficult. It's I don't know what really the change is, other than maybe just a change in approach for either the teams, because the side of the Flying Blobbos are just suffocating them in that midfield area so much, which makes it so difficult to really get any good attack on those barriers, as the second barrier again does drop on the side of Polar Coretex, and the Flying Blobbos are now looking at 1 more goal to take another set in this game.
Lots of damage on Fireman, but still nowhere near dead right now. Flip away with Pensando, but Strike Ward back. Dangerous spot for the Fool now, but will hit stun J-Man to prevent the goal from being scored. And now A's got to do a lot in this midfield here, but against Fireman, it's a tall task against this flip. Name Chaotic strikes it away. Can this X get it done with the stacks on stacks is the question. The Pendulum Swing once, the Whiplash twice, but the Fool just forced on defense so many times, and on the 3rd time, J-Man will score the 3rd goal of the set.
J-Man gonna get rewarded with another draft, potentially another Spark here as well, as he's already picked up the Spark of Agility. We'll see what's gonna be in this, as we have Spark of Strength, Fight or Flight, Spark of Leadership. You have also obviously the Specialized Training, which is very interesting for the two players down the draft order, as the Spark of Strength does find its way onto J-Man. Again, more speed and more damage, essentially the exact same thing that we saw with the Bulk Up and Peak Performance now being replicated with the Sparks. The Hotshot, a great pickup for the Fool. Fight or Flight going to help Fireman and so much with that movement speed, with that preferred playstyle, as the Specialized Training gets denied. But again, Twin Drive from Pensando. We saw what the Fool was able to do with Twin Drive last game. We'll see what the Pensando is going to be able to do with it this game.
I will say, though, the Fool having the Hotshot, right? So that is huge for the Rasmus. I think that might change the game quite a bit here, because it's going to let the Rasmus goalie bypass a lot of the offense of the other team. Just primarying it away. If it's sweet spotted, we'll just send it to the other side of the map and be a scoring threat as well. So that's just a really big pickup in a losing draft.
Yeah, absolutely. So you do get a lot of movement speed for the side of the Flying Blobbos, but again, it doesn't really matter if the course is going to be sent right through you with all of that course speed. And obviously the cooldowns as well, they come into play. But as of right now, the Flying Blobbos are just again suffocating that defense, not getting that allowing that core to go out as the Fool hooks the core out and gets it away now with a hot shot. Name Chaotic trying to get the attack going on Pinzano, but immediately gets met with an arrow beam and is just going to be small for a little bit.
And Chaotic now looking for a Strike War win, but unable to do so against all three members of the Flying Blobbos here. Finally, the barrier falls, and this is where Rasmus Goalie should thrive here, but J-Man, such a threat here. 2 flips available for the Flying Blobbos. They don't need either, just the threat of a flip presses the core forward, and now they're 2 goals away from continuing the series.
2 goals away, and they have 3 flips available for this next point as well, so they're very heavily favored going into this one. We'll see how they're going to be optimizing their usage here as the Vice Ultimate does come through. The barrier does not get dropped yet, but they get 1 barrier touch without using a flip. The first flip coming through from J-Man as Pinzano and Fireman are setting themselves up to get the core back into the half of Polar Coretex, and again, they're just playing it out so well. They're just suffocating these clears, and then now the Era Ultimate will just get that second barrier down as well.
Yep. Fire Madden, flip available, trying to close this one out here. Same with Pensando as J-Man rushes the corner. The NATO going to come out, block the entire bottom side. No, it's actually to the top side here, and the Fool guesses right on it. Has the flip for insurance right now. Going to use it to send it away. But these barriers are just not being taken. Pensando, despite playing the Vice, is looking flawless on the defense here. Supernova, even more chip, even more pressure as J-Man forces it forward, but the Fool is going to defend. The Strike War win from J-Man, and they're 1 goal away.
That pressure is just so suffocating from the side of the Flying Blobbos. There's like every single time that Polar Coretex got the core even a little bit away from the goal, there was immediately Fireman and J-Man or Pinzano on the case and just sending it straight back into that goalie arc of the Fool, and eventually it was enough to get it through, as now the attack is going to be built for the side of the Polar Coretex, but again, they cannot find a barrier even with the flip.
Yeah, it's looking dangerous here. It just looks like the Flying Blobbos are comfortable as the NATO forces the barrier down, the beam right through, the flip on the goal line, and the passive strike to secure it. That's going to be the Flying Blobbos getting it done in this second game.
Yeah, in a map where initially I didn't really feel like the Flying Blobbos were going to be incredibly strong on, they just proved me wrong. They're just playing it out excellently. They got themselves a draft that just works together with Awakenings that were just sufficient for them, and they find themselves a solid 3-1 victory in this game too. They force a game 3, and they keep their chances at making it to the grand finals alive.
Yeah, it's not what I predicted heading into this one, but they just look so used to playing against Rasmus Goalie. They just looked so comfortable against Name Chaotic on the X, right? The lack of reach, I think, really hurt them when in the previous game, Name Chaotic was on that dash range Juliet, making solo plays in the corners. None of that in this game.
Yeah, absolutely none of it. And the only way to enable that is to have something like a Now in the midfield, right? That gives that speed, but obviously on a map like Game Dice, you want to use those mines less for speed ups and more just for contesting the core, because you want to be controlling it as much as possible. So in the end, Name Chaotic had a hard time properly getting involved in the game here, and that's going to put us into a game 3 situation on, I believe, Night Market. It's the last map.
Yeah, it is going to be Night Market here, and that's going to be quite interesting because I think that the Fool is going to probably lock in a melee goal, and we're going to see a very different face from these first 2 games.
Yeah, most definitely. Obviously, Night Market being a bit of a longer map, these 2 games not feeling that long in the grand scheme of things. I feel like a Night Market can be going plus 20 minutes, most likely, especially because both of these teams have been playing so well right now. So we'll see where the priorities are going to be for the drafts again, because now we had a second game where the Vice did come through and a second game where the Vice ended up winning it. So we'll see, depending on the Awakenings, if the Vice priority is still going to be there, if you're going to be opting to ban it or pick it for yourself, as we have peak performance missile propulsion going into Night Market.
Yeah, and with this Awakening start, I'm looking at a certain Dubu goalie that might be a priority pick here, especially with the Fool having succeeded on it quite a lot in the past. But the Era is going to be the priority for Polar Coretex. They're really trying to patch up the weaknesses from the Demon Deus game. They're really trying to enable Name Chaotic and not leave him out to dry.
Yeah, and Arrow's going to be great at doing that, as we see a now pickup following that up as well. So they're looking at the peak performance. They're saying, hey, look, we have a lot of HP coming from that. We just want to be playing the movement speed game here, playing the control game, as Centauro is going to be the pickup for J-Man. Obviously, been having 2 good games on it already. 1 win, 1 loss. We'll see if it's going to end up being a positive win rate. As the Julie is going to come through from Name Chaotic, and Era Julie is quite the combo on a map like Night Market, and Dubu in the back is going to be difficult to go through.
Yeah, pretty much exactly the draft I expected, right? The Dubu goalie and additional control for Polar Coretex, a completely different mode from the first game. But they are looking to score on the other side. The Rune coming out. That's going to be a Rune midfield for Fire Madden, who plays speed characters and Rune. That's it. So, very, very fitting for this team, unless it's a Rune goalie. That would be kind of crazy, but it's probably just going to be the tried and true now goalie from Pensando.
Yeah, and Rune midfield can do quite a bit of work on a map like Night Market as well, obviously, because it is so top and bottom heavy, and also a single Rune pillar can just completely shut down the middle, right? You want speed gate priority, just put a pillar on it, and the enemy can't reach it anymore. So we'll see how that's going to be played out from both sides. I think I would still favor the side of Polar Coretex here, just due to comfortability and efficiency, right? The game plan is incredibly simple. You just have Dubu locking it down in the back, you have Era enabling everyone on their team, and you have Julie just looking to dash punch everyone. It's just a lot simpler than what the side of the Flying Blobbos are going to have to be playing for, which, I mean, it can still very much work, and I feel like if it's being played correctly, it might even be better than what Polar Coretex is trying to do here, but you're just putting a lot of pressure on yourself to actually perform this team comp correctly, and we'll have to see if the Flying Blobbos are going to be able to pull through on that.
Yeah, the Flying Blobbos, they did well in the previous game, and we'll see if they can continue that momentum into this next one here. Not going to be easy to advance to grand finals, but they are definitely a team that can do it as we head into the game. The Dubu is what I have my eyes on. The missile propulsion, especially, is going to be a huge factor.
It's going to be a huge factor, but it's not going to be picked up. Everyone just opting to go peak performance and just play the movement speed game, which does make sense on a map like Night Market. It does offer the chance for the Fool to go missile propulsion in a draft further down the line, because realistically, who's taking it away from you this game, right? There's really no one that would be trying to do that. So it is still an option for them to go, but it's going to be a very fast-paced game here. And we saw that already, 1 barrier dropping on the side of Polar Coretex pretty swiftly.
Very, very swift here as A looking for an opportunity. Fire Madden with the pillars, helping the offense quite a bit in Pensando. Just having so much forward pressure, right? The built-in eject button really on the lifeline, doing a lot of work, but right now it's the side of Polar Coretex sending it forward. J-Man with a perfect flip angle though, and an insta-flip right back from Name Chaotic with the NATO to cover the rebound as well. Lots of coordination from these two teams, but the first goal is still looking pretty far away thanks to that banish from Fire Madden, and now the Fool's in a lot of trouble here.
A lot of trouble and out of the game just completely, as the ultimate from J-Man will take the KO. Power play now in favor of the side of the Flying Blobbos, but A does such a good job with these strikes. A good slowdown from Name Chaotic there with the Julie ultimate as well. Will actually give the time for the Fool to respawn, but an unfortunate angle on Night Market will send the goal in. Fire Madden getting credit of that goal.
A little bit awkward there, and a series of unfortunate events for Polar Coretex, really. But they need to bounce back here, because they would not like to see a repeat of the previous game where the game got out of their control. The Fool forward, both barriers taken. A big opportunity for Polar Coretex here, but they need to find something quick before their own barriers fall, and one has already gone down.
Yeah, especially with that ultimate from Pensando, that pressure coming through, 3-man attacks are just going to be so difficult to deal with as J-Man tries to find an angle past A and the Fool, but cannot find it in the end. The Aeronado coming through is carrying the core up front, but Name Chaotic not able to get it past the defense from the Flying Blobbos, as now we have almost 3 flips in this game, close to 4, as the first one comes out from A and a really nice angle off the middle. Pensando not ready for it.
Yeah, showing Name Chaotic, this is how you hit angles, and finding a perfect shot to the bottom side of the goal there. A really good usage of the flip to even it up, but Fire Madden with the flip is so scary, right? We saw so much control coming out from the Flying Blobbos midfielder in the previous game, and with this flip, with the ability to get out of sticky situations, that could be huge, but Name Chaotic the one with the opportunity now. A perfect flip pass to A, the barrier's opened up. J-Man and Fire Madden looking for an opportunity here, as one barrier will fall on the other side.
One barrier will fall. The flip comes out from J-Man and does get the barrier, actually. Gets it past the Dubu as we're now in open nets on both sides. Name Chaotic not getting the core on that dash there. And the Fool has a flip available on defense. Pensando has one soon as well. So it's going to be a question of who's going to be forced to use it first, or if the core is just going to get forced through them as a good pillar comes out from Fireman. And then to keep the core up top, J-Man now going in as well. But Dubu's such an efficient character defensively.
Name Chaotic, though, breakaway forward of everyone for a moment. Not quite going to be enough, and J-Man responding on the other end. The hit stun denied. The special denied. A great strike by the Fool. Very aware to hit it towards the terrain on the top side. And now the save made, but the Fool in trouble as J-Man slices and dices to get the second goal here.
Yeah, the mix-up with the primary was just a bit too good. The Fool not having the strike ready afterwards. And now Flying Blobbos are looking at 2 flips soon and 1 goal away from getting this set for themselves. We'll have to see if they can actually find it, though, as the Arenado almost immediately gets one barrier, but it's still well defended from the Flying Blobbos. Pensando has a flip available as well now if he does need to use it, and J-Man surely looking to optimize the flip value here as well with taking 1 barrier and then maybe a second.
Oh, but that's a KO that I did not expect, and a huge swing here with the offense getting no value from the Flying Blobbos. They still have a defensive flip available, but Name Chaotic can respond to that himself here. Gonna go for the challenge, gonna win it, and goes for a crazy angle on the center. Redemption for the angle. Previously, the Tofu Fortress is perfect. The hit stun as well, and a brilliant goal for Polar Coretex.
What an angle to be found by Name Chaotic there. Just completely mixes up the defense from the Flying Blobbos, and that puts us into a 0.5 now, with no one really having a flip available for themselves. The Fool being the closest to it with half their bar. So it's just going to come down to pure strike interactions and pure setups.
Yeah, definitely here. The Fool on the bottom end looking for an opportunity as Name Chaotic approaches on the top side. Dangerous spot for Fireman, really, without the cooldowns, and the pillar will be burned there, but Name Chaotic taking advantage of double barrier. The arrow beam forward, a little bit hasty on the dash, but the NATO helping out as well. It's bouncing around and around, and the Fool getting involved as well in the mix, trying to find a flip, but right to Pensando it goes, and the offense will slow down for a second.
The Banish will take out Name Chaotic, and now J-Man gets 1 barrier on the attack. Let's see if they can get the second one. The pillar coming down and shuts down the angle. The Fool losing the second barrier as well. And J-Man now close to a flip. Has it. Does not use it yet, though. The Tofu Fortress coming through. J-Man needs to be taken out here. Otherwise, you have that Centauro with a flip. And this close to the net is going to be so dangerous. It doesn't touch the core. Name Chaotic has a flip available for himself now. We'll see if it's going to come into play.
Yeah, it didn't go for the flip KO on the goalie, and I feel like you really should have there. Polar Coretex survived. They weathered the storm. They bait the flip, and they find a goal of their own on the other side. Just a missed opportunity for the brawler of Flying Blobbos, and now the Fool. Hey, missile propulsion potentially returning. Wow, already. But it's going to be the team player.
It's potentially coming back. It's potentially coming back, but team player, just in a game like this, it's just so speed heavy, so control heavy, you just want the team player. You're just going to be sending it across field consistently. And again, you're not really giving the missile prop to anyone, so you don't really care not taking it for yourself, other than just not having the funny little Tofu Fortress wall that just flies across the entire map. Fighter Flight still being a really good pickup, though. More movement speed for Name Chaotic, especially if you win a set. Going Sparks is so beneficial because you're just setting yourselves up for better drafts in the future. The Super Surge for A going to help a lot as well with these speed ups, but the prime time on Fireman is going to be quite efficient as well. These pillars just being so disruptive. But talking about disruptive, the dash punch just immediately takes both barriers.
Yeah, that's pretty huge for Name Chaotic. Double banish though, and it's immediately traded on the other end. The Tofu Fortress is going to stop it for now, but it gets right past J-Man. The Dubu basically invisible at that top side as J-Man gets it right through.
Gets it right through, and obviously that's just an explosive point from both sides. Both barriers dropping immediately on both sides, and then J-Man finding that angle through as A actually on no evades here. And again, another double barrier. J-Man still on the attack. Pensando just walking up and setting themselves up. The Flying Blobbos are just swinging.
Yeah, just a great, very confident strikes over and over again. I think Polar Coretex not used to their opponents being this fast in how they play their offense here. J-Man just presses strike, right? Like, he just finds an angle, and if it works, it works, and so far, it is working.
It's working extremely well, as they also have a flip on J-Man now, opting to probably use that for a barrier or even a KO if the opportunity presents itself, as the ultimate will hold the core there. the dash punch coming through from Name Chaotic there to get one barrier, but again, one barrier doesn't mean anything if the second one's still alive. J-Man gets one barrier up top here, has a flip, uses it immediately, but the Tofu Fortress will completely shut that down.
Dangerous spot now for Name Chaotic. Trying to find a dash punch, trying to find value against J-Man perhaps, but no good openings now. Rushing forward with the speed. But again, it's just not catching up with the core. The pace of play of Flying Blobbos is just speeding up even more as this game goes on. It's a bit of a replication of the previous game and how they're playing.
Yeah, and the difficulty as well is the faster the game is, the more difficult it is to make proper use of the team player that the Fool has picked up there, which is obviously really great for the side of the Flying Blobbos, and not something you want to see if you're the Polar Coretex's advantage. Will hit Name Chaotic there. Again, we're going through the top here continuously, but no one really finding that second barrier. Both goalies just holding on so efficiently.
Yep. Trying to find a team player play here. That's a contingency that they found in the previous draft, and Name Chaotic will get the double hitboxes to find the barrier take. The team player now accelerating, but Pensando playing ahead of it, and the barrier take right past as well. The flip now, but it's so congested. A pass to A with the team player again, and now a flip to the bottom corner. Not going to be enough. A strike war win by J-Man once more, and now Name Chaotic trying to catch up, but the pace is too quick. This Juliet hasn't been able to touch the core in what feels like forever.
Yeah, and even if she gets a chance for once, she just gets banished. So a bit difficult to really get yourself involved there. Name Chaotic now with a great sequence of strikes, or just wins one strike row after the other, and a beautiful ultimate will just send it in. The unstable anomaly, unfortunately, being slightly misplaced and just sending it into the goal there as well. This gives the first goal of the set to Polar Coretex.
Yeah, a bit of a non-Polar Coretex goal, unfortunately, but Name Chaotic did set it up perfectly for Fire Madden. And that's going to be a bit of a roadblock for the Flying Blobbos, especially as this Tofu Fortress sends it right through the pillar. It travels right past it and going to pick up the first barrier here. But the key is trying to get Name Chaotic involved, right? If Name Chaotic gets his hands on the core, there's so much that happens, but Flying Blobbos are not letting that happen too easily.
Yeah, these pillars coming through continuously just to shut down any kind of interaction, and every single time Fire Madden has a banish, it's just going to find its way into Julie as well. But the moment you don't have it, the Julie will find the dash punch for the second barrier there, and a flip on Name Chaotic as well could potentially be the doom here for the Flying Blobbos. The ultimate coming through, it gets offended well though by Pensando. Pensando also still having a flip available if he does need to use it defensively, as Name Chaotic and A almost get the core through, and they do. A great stun from Name Chaotic will disallow Pensando to get to the bottom, and we're in a 0.5 in a set that felt like Flying Blobbos just dominating at the beginning.
Yeah, and of course, the damage not really being a factor in this game with the stagger start here. And that's not going to be a big win condition for either team. The Tofu Fortress used defensively a little bit early. And heading into this one, it's really going to come down to J-Man's flip, I think.
Yeah, J-Man is gonna be getting that flip soon, and it's gonna be a question of whether they can use that flip to get the second barrier. You can't actually, needs to use it to keep the core up front, and now you have the energy advantage on the side of Polar Coretex, and we'll see if they're gonna be able to get the first barrier off of the hands from Pensando. But Pensando just playing such an aggressive line and making it so difficult to really get a solid attack going on either of his barriers.
Yep. Name Chaotic dribbling now, big opportunity, but flipped away by Pensando, and burning that flip so important. Same can be said about J-Man on the other end though, taking it away from the Fool. And now the NATO doing some work to dash through, but against 3 it's going to be too many strike boxes to take advantage of. Now a big flip right into the Flame Flurry from Name Chaotic, who has built up a flip now, all of that energy. And after this, banish is going to be huge for the Flying Blobbos to try and defend to get it away, but now the team player is activated, but the angle finds the barrier through it all. And it's an open net situation, dangerous for the Fool, who will send it towards the center here, up to Name Chaotic, who tries to get control, has the dash now, looking for an opportunity, but it's sent away again by the Flying Blobbos, and the hit stun from the Oni's Blade will secure this set.
The angle being just perfect enough to send it to the bottom, the Fool not able to reach it. And that's going to be the Flying Blobbos taking their first set. Going to get rewarded with this Intaro first pick, as we do have a bulk up here, which obviously is just such a great pickup together with the peak performance. Would imagine that's going to find its way onto J-Man there. Stacks on stacks, still valuable to be picked up. Monumentalist has to be denied off of Pensando, obviously now being such a good character with that. Into stacks, like I assumed, finding its way onto Name Chaotic, giving that movement speed. Aerial's still a great pickup for now, but it's greater that that Era doesn't get it in the end, as the last two pickups are going to be Recovery Drone and Spark of Strength. Both of them not really going to be that influential, I feel like.
Yeah, it's a bit of a rough draft, I think, for the side of Polar Coretex here. Of course, you do get stacks on Name Chaotic, which might prove to be a factor in a game where people are just not really dying, other than A, for some reason. But it's just not really a valuable draft for them here. It's all up to Name Chaotic, who's getting in the mix and getting a strike forward for the goal. And if that does happen, that is their win condition.
Yeah, that Juliet just being so effective in close ranges against both the Rune and the Now there. Not much either of them could have been doing about that situation. But it's coming down to what we've seen before already in the points where the Flying Blobbos are actually winning them. If you can deny the core going all the way upfield to Name Chaotic, you're gonna have a great time. And the flip comes through there, the barrier's still alive, but again, the core just bouncing back and forth pretty heavily here as J-Man gets one barrier out, uses the flip, and Sando up front as well getting involved. And the KO being found on the Fool, almost a second one on Name Chaotic, but just barely holds on as the power play still alive. Fireman gets one of the barriers. J-Man gets the strike, but it gets defended excellently by Name Chaotic with that ultimate, and now the Fool back in play.
A dangerous backstep by A as J-Man goes forward here. Name Chaotic now with the control, with the speed, but not going to be enough to find a possession on the other end. The speed boost coming in, but right to J-Man it goes. The log breaks. J-Man towards the middle looking for a passing play now to Fireman, and the Pillar will reinforce it for now. The EI rush not going to be enough either as Fireman constantly playing such scary offense here. Has a relatively immobile character, but is still such a presence in the corner.
Yeah, most definitely. And the strike gust go through the Centaur ultimate, actually not catching the core, and it just glides right through there. A point for the Flying Blobbos. But yeah, Fireman is just everywhere, and that is just that strength of that prime time as well. Having two of these pillars to be working with continuously is just so effective, and you see Fireman just making the most of it.
Yeah, and we'll see if the Polar Coretex can get the game's pace back into their control, but right now it's all J-Man's getting past both defenders, finding a flip and finding the second barrier here. And with this open net situation, it's going to be dangerous against this Rune in particular. Fireman's made so many disruptive plays. The Hover Fortress is stalled out, trying to find a barrier of their own, but denied. One finally earned by Polar Coretex, but hit stunned away. Is Name Chaotic pillared? Is Name Chaotic banished? Is Name Chaotic not allowed to play the game as the Flying Blobbos keep their barrier alive?
Keep their barrier alive, still have a flip on Pensando as well if they need to use it, because the pressure is not calming down in any way as the beam comes through as well, and the dash punch still finding its way through. Pensando needs to use the flip now, and now immediately on the attack. 2v1 against the Fool, but he does get the core out. Flip available for the Fool as well as the attack's starting to get mounted again. Name Chaotic trying to set up for a dash punch, but the pillar's just in the way. The Aerial coming through with the flip and the ultimate will be enough. The barrier is now down as Polar Coretex are trying to find themselves this point. J-Man almost gets a goal in. The Fool has to use the flip to answer, but again, the point's not found on either side just yet.
Name Chaotic using the core speed perfectly, but Pensando, so used to this now goalie, drops the mine, the secondary out, and now J-Man looking for a flick, but not quite enough with the passive strike. Lots of meter being built up by Name Chaotic here. This flip could bring the lead to Polar Coretex's end, but it's going to be difficult against these Rune Pillars. The team player being denied over and over again. Name Chaotic from the midfield. Oh! The pillar mixes up Pensando's strike timing. That's a goal from Fireman.
Oh, how unfortunate. The idea was so good for Fireman to just shut down that shot, but Pensando was there to catch it, and then strike timing just goes a bit haywire. That puts Polar Coretex away one goal from taking the set, and they immediately take advantage of that as well. Take one barrier. Name Chaotic with the dash punch there will get it. And Name Chaotic again on the attack. The now will get the core out. The banish doesn't hit anyone as the attack is switching over now. Now the core is still on the side of the Flying Blobbos here.
Yeah, they still have a lot of control, but it's still a barrier advantage for Polar Coretex. There's double shrink coming out. Name Chaotic going for a strike war win to punch enough to get both barriers. And this could be a huge set win for Polar Coretex. The Tofu Fortress setting up, but not quite the arc they wanted here as J-Man rushes forward. One barrier taken, looking for two. The flip available. The hit stun down, and the bounce off the center. But A is there in time this time. And Name Chaotic with a pass down to A. A mix up to the top side. The pillar not enough as Name Chaotic doesn't even need the flip. Finds the follow-up strike. And that's a huge lead for Polar Coretex.
An absolute massive lead, and you do have a Juliet first pick as well on this draft. We'll see what we are getting. You do have quite a few interesting pickups here. The Castellas is going to be something that is going to be looked at for A. Curious if it's going to drop down or if it's going to be denied by J-Man, because there's also a Dash Awakening, which J-Man very much will, and he does opt for that. So that means Castellas on Era, with all of the speed that Name Chaotic already has in his current build, together with now his Super Surge Castellas Era behind him, I feel like this Juliet's just going to be all over the place.
Yeah. It's a little bit scary here, and again, this time, the draft's a bit awkward for Pensando, but J-Man gets the dash range Fireman and he gets that Siege Machine. You still have to watch out, but Name Chaotic and A lot more control over this midfield.
Yeah, that's just that speed off of kickoff, right? The era speed coming through, and they're just walking up, and I feel like the Flying Blobbos were not even close to contesting it. Both barriers gone, and then a beautiful Tofu Fortress from the Fool will be enough to force it through Pensando. Not much he can do there on the defensive end. Polar Coretex starting off this 4th set with a bang.
Yeah, and we'll see if that continues. Like you mentioned, the kickoff so powerful. They surge forward with that speed, and they just get ahead of the play, but this time it's disrupted by the Flying Blobbos, who are looking to close this out and try and send this to another set. Continuing to put on the pressure in the corner here as Pensando plays midfield of the pillars, the drones, the circular hitboxes, buying time for J-Man to come back from the other side of the stage here. And with that flip available, they need to find something, but with the NATO, but that's a KO for the Flying Blobbos here, and Polar Coretex now on the back foot.
More importantly, even though it's early in the set, that's a complete reset on the stacks for Name Chaotic, so that's going to slow him down even just a little bit, which is obviously great. It's going to delay that max stacks on him as well, so you do want to be finding this point rather soon. You don't want to be drawing it out, but the side of Polar Coretex are not allowing it to end fast. They are drawing it out. They're getting these stacks going, and they're just winning Strike War after Strike War, getting the attack going. 2 flips available as well for them here, as Name Chaotic is only 1 bar away from getting a 3rd one for the team. The flip comes out, a beautiful angle by A will just get the barrier, and now the team player coming through from the Fool, trying to get it all the way up to Name Chaotic, but they can't find the angle. J-Man and Fireman and just being so disruptive, and a beautiful unstable anomaly will just completely shut that down. J-Man gets answered by the flip there though, and both sides now on an open goal.
Name Chaotic has flip available, rushing forward, looking for an opportunity, but overcooks it with the dash. Was in the perfect spot, but he doesn't get it here. And now it's the midfield. It's a scary spot. The hit stun preventing Name Chaotic from doing a quick dribble into a dash punch. And J-Man now in a good position. A rotating the core there wherever the Fool needs to be. Continuing to make the defense happen. Our Polar Coretex here. And A now looking for a pass, looking for the core right to Name Chaotic. The core speed coming out from the team player as well. Such a big threat, but now the flip is a factor. Good disruption by the Fool, looking for a KO perhaps with the log, with a double roll. A little ambitious, and now the Fool has no cooldowns.
Immediately punished by J-Man there, noticing that the Fool doesn't really have anything to be defending that anymore, and they get the goal, and more importantly, they keep the flip on J-Man, which you now have for this next attack. Looking at the energy across the field, Pensando has a flip soon as well. Meanwhile, the side of Polar Coretex all a little bit away from getting one on their own, so this point very advantageous for the side of the Flying Blobbos is to get one barrier out and Name Chaotic down to low HP. If they can find another KO on this Juliet, this would be massive, but I don't think they're going to be chasing it as they get a second barrier here.
Lots of meter build up for A, but J-Man still has the flip available here. Dangerous spot for the Fool, and going for a crazy angle is J-Man. The roll is there to save it for Polar Coretex, but that could have been disastrous. That could have been a crazy solo goal there for the Flying Blobbos, as Pensando's the one building up a lot of meter. Fireman is in position, as this point seems destined for overtime here.
Yeah, most definitely. The defense from the Flying Blobbos holding on. They drop 1 barrier, but the second one is still very much alive. Pensando has a flip as well. A great banish will just take A out of the play, which gives Fireman and J-Man these positional advantages, but the Aeronade is just completely shutting that down again. A flip coming out from Pensando, as the Fool's going to try to send it up again. Name Chaotic close to a flip as well, so we'll probably see a Julie Dash Punch or a flip coming through to take the second barrier off the hands of Pensando if the side of the Flying Blobbos cannot get the core out, and they can't. Tofu Fortress sends it up front immediately as well, as the Centaur ultimate has to come out, the pillars have to come out. The side of the Flying Blobbos just throwing everything at their defense here, just trying to hold on. Another flip being used by Fireman, and at this point, if Flying Blobbos are not able to get this point, this would be a disaster. A KO being found from the Fool there, as now the Polar Coretex are looking to get this point going. A banish will calm things down though and give a little bit of time for the Flying Blobbos.
Oh, this is scary. Fireman has so much control in these overtime situations. The pillar doesn't connect. Name Chaotic to the bottom side. So much speed on Juliet and the core speed as well. Pensando making the save, and A and Name Chaotic, they're relatively low range. They can't find the snipes. The polar opposite is Fireman and J-Man, who have all the range in the world to play with here. The passive gonna come out and not going to be enough for the moment, but they're just playing around Name Chaotic. They're preventing the Juliet from getting in there because that's what happens, but doesn't get the follow-up strike. And now once again, Polar Coretex trying one last time, and they will get it to Name Chaotic. They will find the goal, and they're one goal away from the grand finals.
They want that run back with Cyberswipe. They are one goal away, and they're looking good to do it as they have a flip soon on Name Chaotic as well. On the other hand, J-Man has one available as well pretty soon, so we'll see how it's going to come through as the banish hits both A and Name Chaotic there, and the barrier's down once. The Julie Ultimate coming through. They cannot get the second one just yet. The flip comes through. The barrier's down. An open goal now. They are one goal away from getting themselves back into the grand finals, but the defense from the Flying Blobbos are still holding on. J-Man trying to play with the pillar, and the flip doesn't hit anything. Pins on the defensive end, and A not able to get into the core there as Name Chaotic in a 1v1 on that Juliet now, but again they're holding on. The Tofu Fortress will keep the core up front. Downstable Anomalies helping out in the back as well as the Juliet ultimate comes through, but no, they're not finding it. The attack's still going on. The Flying Blobbos are staying alive. The Fool up front doesn't even need to use the flip because A gets the angle, and Polar Coretex will find themselves back in the grand finals, and they find themselves in a run back with Cyberswipe.
It's a mirror of what could have been in Nasty last season. Both teams, both Polar, Coretex, and Cyberswipe now in the next better tier of competition. It is going to be Polar Coretex. Just an incredible last set performance where they just got their offense going. They played to their overtime win conditions perfectly. And Flying Blobbos, it was great, but it just wasn't enough.
Wasn't enough, and especially towards the end they were just stuck on defense so much. They were holding on for so long, but they couldn't get past the pure speed that the side of Polar Coretex had. And in the end, it was just a question of time when Polar Coretex is going to score, and in the end they did actually find it. It's still a pretty drawn out game, a lot of redirects coming through, not a lot of chaos, essentially what we would have expected out of it. And the Flying Blobbos, even though they had a great season, it's going to be ending here.
Yeah, Flying Blobbos, the road ends here, but Polar Coretex still have a lot to play for to win NASA. It's not going to be easy, but taking down a red-hot Flying Blobbos who dominated the loser side, I mean, that's the first step.
Very much so. But we'll see how these matchups are going to be going, obviously, right? Because again, we've seen Polar Coretex against Cyberswipe before, and that one time it did go in the favor of Cyberswipe. We'll see if Polar Coretex is going to try to get maybe a different approach for this grand finals here, or if we're going to be seeing more of the same. But generally, just everyone having an incredible series so far.
Yeah, and with that, we're going to be right back, and we're going to see you in the grand final, so don't go anywhere. We'll see you soon.